Hello! Sunday Funday! Hello, and welcome to Sunday Funday. It just sounded fun to say, and it ended up being a segment. Welcome to a new silly titled segment, Sunday Funday. A segment devoted to 5 titles currently streaming, and a fun nugget to boot. Now, 7 is definitely rated R, and for good reason. This movie freaked me the fuck out when I saw it in the theater as a youngin'. I usually don't get creeped out by eerie movies, but this and The Exorcist cut me some slack with The Exorcist. I was a kid, for God's sake. The premise is pretty simple. 2 detectives, a rookie and a veteran, hunt a serial killer who uses 7 deadly sins as his motive. And what adds another layer of creepiness is John Doe, the serial killer, is played by Kevin Spacey. First off, he's a world-class actor, and on the screen there's no denying what he brought to the film. Time and the moviegoer's subconscious can add up to even more scariness. It adds another layer to the story. Now, when you think of 7, you think of 3 things. I should say at least 3 things I think of. Number 1, the unique spelling, replacing the V with the 7. We were a little more scrupulous in 1995 and had great appreciation for simple originality. And board games. Number 2, the movie was dark, as in content and visually. It was shot mostly at night, plus it was raining the first 6 days. Number 3, when you think of 7, you think of Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, which leads us to our 7 factoid. So Denzel Washington was offered Brad Pitt's role, but he felt the script was too dark and sinister, so he passed on the role. However, a year and many months later, Denzel Washington attended a screening of the film. He walked out of the theater regretting his decision. But keep in mind, no one knew that David Fincher would become David Fincher. He'd only done music videos and commercials. The only feature film he directed to this point was Alien 3. Number 2, Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody. This PG-13 film was released theatrically on December 23rd of 2022. It did its digital release, rental, and for sale purchases, and it dropped on Netflix a little over a week ago. Naomi Ackie plays Whitney Houston, and she was quite good. She did have some front-top choppers put in. I'm a big Stanley Tucci fan, so I enjoyed watching him play Clive Davis, an icon in the music industry. It was a little strange seeing Stanley Tucci with hair, even if it was kind of a wraparound at times. There's 3 names you see in the film, and they're a little bit deceiving. Oprah Winfrey, Kevin Costner, and the late Merv Griffin. They're all in there, but they're in archival footage. They actually used the Merv Griffin show and the cut between the actress playing Whitney Houston and the real Merv Griffin on the talk show archival footage, because that's where she made her television debut. Fans of The Wire and Treme will enjoy seeing Clark Peters playing John Huston, and Tamara Turi plays Sissy Houston, Whitney's mom. You'd recognize Turi as Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Melinda Warner on Law & Order Special Victims Unit. She's actually played the Chief Medical Examiner on 226 episodes of Law & Order SVU. I was a little surprised to see the IMDb movie meter at 6.6. Now, the factoid for Whitney Houston is a little different. It could be a drinking game or a trivia game, or just a game of trying to solve it. Now, 95% of Whitney Houston's music used in the film was sung by Whitney Houston, obviously archived. What I found odd, 95%, it could make for a fun game. What 5% of the music was not sung by Whitney Houston? I found this nugget out after watching the film, and to be honest, as much as I enjoyed watching it the other Sunday, the thought of watching it again anytime soon seems like a major chore. Number 3 comes from the series The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, one of my favorites, I'll readily admit. It's in its final season, and I've watched the first 4 episodes of the 9-episode final season. My favorite of the flash forward is showing her profile on 60 Minutes being interviewed by the iconic newsman Mike Wallace.
Does the phrase living legend apply?
Geez, Mike, I'm not dead yet. Wait, am I?
The fun nugget for the Amazon Prime Video series, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, is that it was the first streaming show to win an Emmy for Best Comedy Series.
The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
One of 20 Emmys overall.
It's showtime!
A reminder, the Amazon Prime Video series, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, is in the midst of its final season, 9-episode season. New episodes drop on Friday. Number 4 is the film Runaway Jury from 2003. It's streaming on Hulu. It's one of those movies from the 90s and early 2000s that was adapted from a John Grisham novel. This is one of those films that had many different pre-development lives with its cast and character. The premise, a juror, John Cusack, on the inside, and a woman, Rachel Weisz, on the outside, manipulate a court trial involving a major gun manufacturer. Not only did the cast and director change many times, but it took so long to get made that the actual plot changed. The company that sued was initially a tobacco company in the original script in '97 and the book, to its eventual company that's being sued, the gun manufacturer, in the finished product of the film. Gary Fielder directed the film, and he did Kiss the Girls and Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead in the mid to late 90s. As mentioned, Cusack plays Nicholas Easter, Gene Hackman plays Rankin Finch, Dustin Hoffman plays Wendell Rohr, and Weisz plays Marley. Now here's our fun fact. In 1997, Edward Norton was originally cast in the role of Nicholas Easter, with Joel Schumacher directing. Sean Connery and Gwyneth Paltrow were cast in the roles of Finch and Marley. But when Schumacher dropped out of the project and it was delayed, the actors moved on to other projects. Now the project was revived in 2001 with Will Smith set to star, along with Jennifer Connelly and Mike Newell to direct. But that stalled again, and then it comes to 2003 and the cast that we talked about, and the film was eventually made. Number 5 is a really good film, hard to watch at times, This Boy's Life, starring Robert De Niro, Ellen Barkin, and a young Leonardo DiCaprio. Premise, the story is about the relationship between a rebellious 1950s teenager and his abusive stepfather, based on the memoirs of writer and literature professor Tobias Wolff. So De Niro was so impressed with a young Leonardo DiCaprio that he called iconic filmmaker Martin Scorsese and told him, "You have to watch this kid." You have to remember, De Niro and Scorsese had just done Cape Fear and Goodfellas the past couple of years. Scorsese said it was unlike De Niro to ever tell him he needed to watch someone's work. Starting in 2002, 9 years later, De Niro would direct DiCaprio 6 times. Truly remarkable. And you wonder, would they have done all 6 of these films if it wasn't for De Niro getting the ball started? The 6 films, Gangs of New York, The Aviator, The Departed, Shutter Island, Wolf of Wall Street, and the upcoming film that will eventually be on Apple TV Plus this year, Killers of the Flower Moon. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if TV film is your thing, and comment on something you'd like to see. Until next week, have a great one.